Good evening. Welcome. This is TMS Roundtable Recovery, and my name is Dr. Tovah Goldfine. We stream live weekly, meeting doctors and health professionals and movie directors and authors and scientists, and most important, fascinating guests like Tamara Gurin, who has healed CRPS and in full recovery. We meet also many individuals who have recovered from all types of chronic pain and autoimmune disease. In 2016, Tamara Gurin was diagnosed with CRPS, a condition sometimes called the suicide disease, due to its severity and lack of a recognized cure. Initially, Tamara was misdiagnosed and offered standard treatments like opioids and surgery. She refused. She sought a different path. After discovering Dr. Sarno's book, Mindbody Prescription, she embraced his approach. And through her journey of self-discovery, she was able to rewire her brain and fully recover. Inspired by her recovery, Tamara wrote a book called Defying the Verdict. What an outstanding name, like powerful. So I am blessed to have met Tamara a few times in my studio. And I think this is our third or fourth time, but hear me out. We will meet again. This is not the last time we will be talking about this because it's so important, Tamara. You have so much to offer. You met with Dr. Schrubener on a podcast, and that's up on his site. I mean, people know who you are, the TMS Wiki, they know who you are, and now my audience will know who you are. So I am excited to just sit back a bit and have a dialogue about what happened and how you made that switch so smart, so sensitive to go with the neuroplastic methods. And here you are to talk about it. So please, welcome.
Hello, everybody. I'm really glad to be on TMS Roundtable. It is an amazing community. It is always amazing to watch people telling their stories, how they recovered from all kinds of conditions, from back pain to CRPS or chronic fatigue syndrome, or uh, this is a new frontier now, autoimmune conditions that are being reversed using mind-body approach. And this is totally fascinating. Long COVID is another one that is also amazing, that people use exactly the same approach, rewiring their brain, and they get out of the long COVID that is so debilitating for many. So I'm really excited to be on TMS Roundtable again. So
Welcome.
how do we start?
So what people like to know is, what happened to you? I think it was an injury. I believe in your wrist, but what happened? And, and for what I believe is quite interesting is like, the medical model can work for some CRPS, but for the majority, it's not working. And so at what point did that, I sort of like the timeline and share with the listeners kind of the timeline and then what you did and how you kept, applying and implementing these methods and kept yourself healthy and strong. And then about the book.
Okay, so my CRPS happened overnight. So one day, and I know exactly when it happened. It was September 24th of
Wow.
2015.
Almost.
I woke up and my left wrist was swollen and my entire forearm was swollen. It was really, really painful. It's, sometimes you get an insect bite and your whole body starts swelling. It felt like as if I was bitten by an insect. So I didn't think much about it. Okay, it's an insect bite, it will go away. The next day it didn't go away. The next day it didn't go away. So I made an appointment with my doctor. She looked at it and she said, well, I think what you have is carpal tunnel syndrome. And I said, but this is a left hand. I don't write. I don't type as much with my left hand. And uh, we start. She said, no, it's got to be carpal tunnel, because that's what it is. And so she convinced me to go back in memory and think about what I've done with my left hand in the preceding days. And the only thing that I could remember of was that I'm actually left-handed, but I write and I do a lot of things with right hand. So I was scraping paint on my balcony, and I thought that maybe I overworked my hand, but really it was a couple hours of work over a course of several days. So I really hated doing it. So I would do it for 5 minutes and I drop it, and I do it for 5 minutes and I stop it. And so there was no way I could overwork my hand by doing that. Nevertheless, I followed her instructions. I bought a brace, I put it on, I gave my hand a rest, and nothing helped. Within a month, um, I started getting my pain evolved to the point that it became neuropathic. And the difference between neuropathic pain and the regular pain is that neuropathic pain, I compare it to fire ants crawling under your skin. And it's just constant. It never ends. It's there day or night, and it just drives you mad. So slowly it turned into neuropathic pain. Swelling didn't go away. It jumped on my other hand. I started having pain in both hands. Interesting enough, at that time I was on vacation. Soon after this whole symptom appeared, I went on vacation. So I was vacationing for 3 weeks. I was supposedly giving my hands rest, and my condition was getting worse and worse and worse. So eventually, my fingers curled in and formed what is called claw hand. It's your hand is stuck in this position, and you can't make a fist. You can't open your hand. I couldn't put my hand on a flat surface without extreme pain shooting through the whole arm. And so it kept getting worse and worse and worse. So by the time I returned home, I scheduled another appointment. I went back to the doctors. They sent me to EMG, electromyography test, and the neurologist told me that for sure what I had was carpal tunnel syndrome, because electric signals were not going through my hands, and they were very severely um, severely deficient. So he explained that all that meant that what I had was carpal tunnel syndrome. And I said, how, and I asked him a question. I asked, so how come that, how does it explain my claw hand? Because by then I explored every single literature available on carpal tunnel syndrome, and they all were saying that there was no mentioning of what I later learned was dystonia. It's uh, involuntary contraction of muscles. And the doctors try to basically avoid answering. They just change subject. They don't tell you that this is not a carpal tunnel syndrome symptom. And so they offered me opioids to calm down the pain. And they said that steroid injection will fix the problem. I asked, will steroid injection fix the problem of claw hands? And they just didn't answer. And then they said that if that doesn't help, we can do surgery. And I asked the same question again, will it fix my claw hand? And they just wouldn't answer. And so I I really like to understand why things are happening the way they're happening. So
Absolutely.
I decided that I will continue searching for answers. And so that was time before artificial intelligence. So my second opinion was Dr. Google. So each time I would go to see the doctor in the office, I would go back to Dr. Google. And Dr. Google kept pointing at other things. So along the way for several months, I tried all kinds of things. I tried acupressure, I tried acupuncture. The acupuncturist prescribed me all kinds of herbs. So all of that I tried without any luck. So eventually a friend suggested that I get a book by Dr. Sarno, who specialized in back pain. I said, interestingly enough, ironically, I have pain everywhere except for my back.
Oh.
Why would I read this book? She said that apparently somehow it helps with other conditions. So I sort of brushed it off. And a month later, she brought it up again.
Wow.
And at that point, I was at such a low point. I got to the point that I couldn't drive. I couldn't open a round doorknob on my house door. Basically, to get into the house, I had to have grip gloves. The grip gloves that help you. They don't slide as much. They're not as smooth as your hand. So when I went to a produce section at the grocery store, I had to put gloves on because my hands were super sensitive to temperature. So I couldn't touch an apple in the produce section because immediately I had shooting pains through my hands. I couldn't write. I couldn't take notes at work. I could barely type. So my hands were swollen. They were red. I had red blotches. And it was kind of like bizarre disco show. I would look at my hand and there would be red blotches kind of traveling under the skin. And my hand would be just without emotion on the table, and those red blotches would just travel around the hand, and they were swollen, and the pain was absolutely just mind-blowing. It was unbelievable pain. And so no painkillers, over-the-counter painkillers didn't work. I had this idea that maybe I should just start taking opioids and just forget about everything else. Just take the pain out. But I knew that opioids were addictive. I knew that painkiller was not solving the problem. It was only reducing the impact of the problem. And so I just kept searching. So I finally surrendered. I bought Sarno's book. And as I was reading Sarno's book, as it happened to almost everybody who gets Sarno's book in that condition, I saw myself on every page.
Every page. In fact,
Everybody
you
says
didn't
exactly
even need a
the same.
yeah.
I saw myself on every
Exactly.
page. And so
Wow.
I got the book. I came home after work, and by the way, getting through the day at work was a challenge by itself because I was not even 50% functional at that point. And so I got the book. By next morning, I read the whole book. And so at that point, it was an eye opener. But what was interesting, his Mindbody prescription has a list of conditions that, in his opinion, at that time were TMS conditions. So carpal tunnel was there. But also there was a mentioning of RSD, which used to be a name for CRPS. It used to be called RSD, and then it became CRPS. And so meanwhile, sometime around that time, I actually arrived on the correct diagnosis because for me, it was very important to get an accurate diagnosis. And it was physical therapist who actually told me that what I had was CRPS. There was not carpal tunnel syndrome. And when I heard the word CRPS, I said, well, maybe really now I have a diagnosis. So now what a relief, I have a diagnosis. So I looked it up on Dr. Google. And once I realized what the diagnosis was, my heart sank into my feet because I found out that it is incurable condition, 20% chance of remission, that it is called suicide disease sometimes, that it is a progressive disease. And at that point, I realized, oh my God, it started in my left hand, it jumped onto my right hand, it keeps climbing up my arms. I now have pain in my shoulder blades. And then I realized, oh my God, and I have the same, tense muscles and pain here and there occasionally in my feet. So eventually I will have full body CRPS. I got to do something about it. And that was the beginning. And so thanks to Dr. Sarno and his book, I found TMS Wiki, the TMS forum.
So how many years was this excruciating pain until you got the CRPS diagnosis? And then, I mean, again, it's like you resisted reading Sarno a few months prior, decided to look at it, and then you were just you embraced it, like you said in your bio. I mean, what
It's
was
very
it about
simple.
it?
It is very simple. So we talk about it on the forum. There is a group of people who long recovered from their TMS conditions, and they kind of stay on and they guide people through their recovery. And we usually say something about the person. This person has not hit the bottom yet. And I believe that start of every TMS journey is when you hit the bottom. I
Very
was
important
lucky.
point. It's a very important point because this is hard for people to hear. So continue. So thank you for
Yeah.
just a very important
So
point, but go ahead.
I was very, I was very lucky because my doctors, my primary doctors, were so evasive in responding to my concerns. They basically wouldn't answer my questions. I realized that I cannot count on them. I cannot trust them to get me out of this condition because they either didn't want to hear from me or they didn't understand, they didn't know enough. So I basically have given up on them. So that route was closed. I tried acupuncturist, who was a very trusted acupuncturist who I was referred to by a trusted friend, and he got stuck. He told me that he knew about CRPS, he knew how to get me out of it, but the more he worked on me, the worse my condition was. It just kept getting worse and worse and worse. So I knew that I could not get through that route. I knew I didn't want to go with opioids because it wasn't a solution. So I was lucky. Dr. Sarno was the only one who was offering me something. So in that respect, I hit the bottom and I had someone who was offering me a solution.
Yep.
And it was very convincing. What the theory that he presented was very convincing. And so he was the only one who was giving me the logical answer.
And I just want to interrupt for a minute because back then there was no PRT. There was, we were just figuring out, like, at least in the community, we weren't understanding the connection between the brain and CRPS. Maybe back then wouldn't have been on the list, but it's now on the list of people that can recover. I mean, CSS, CRPS, trigeminal nerve, these people are recovering using the neuroplastic methods. And I think back then you didn't even have that to bite
No.
into.
So there were a couple hints here and there. Dr. Sarno in his book described one RSD case that was very different from mine. There wasn't really good explanation. There wasn't really convincing message that, yes, that person fully recovered. And then on one of the many extremely depressing CRPS forums, because most of CRPS forums are doom and gloom, where people talk about how bad their condition is and whether one of those barbaric treatments that they get, like ketamine shots or nerve blocks. I like kind of like this term. It's called denervation. Once I realized what denervation was, which is they kill the nerve. Sometimes people go for amputations because their pain is unbearable, and they
Yeah.
end up with, guess what, phantom limb
Yeah,
syndrome,
exactly.
because the limb is
Exactly.
gone, but the pain is still there.
Yeah.
So on one of those very depressing CRPS forums, I found a message, a post by a woman who recovered using Dr. Sarno's book. And the message was very short. She said, I kept reading his book again and again until I fully recovered.
Oh.
And I saw, and that was it. She posted maybe a couple times. She didn't have any explanation. She disappeared. She probably went on with her new merry life. And so she wasn't there to answer my questions, but I grabbed onto that. That was my straw, that was my way out. And so I thought, well, I'm gonna start reading Sarno's book. And I kept searching, I'm pretty good at searches online. And so I found that TMS forum, TMS wiki, and there were people who were absolutely immersed in Sarno's method. There were people who were Sarno's followers. There were doctors who recovered using Sarno's method. At that time, I didn't really uh, kind of didn't catch on the names. So I didn't even read the book by Dr. Schubener, for example, until years later, until after I recovered. Um, but there were some names that of people who recovered using Dr. Sarno's method. And so there was Alan Gordon in LA. And I called Alan Gordon and I tried to explain CRPS, and he said, oh, you know what? We have a therapist who herself recovered from CRPS. And that's how I found Amber Murphy. She's no longer working with Alan. She has her own practice, but she worked with me. We didn't have many sessions. We had maybe 10 sessions or so. And
Can you share with the listeners what you might have
oh,
done in the
it
session
was
that
very
helped you?
simple.
Yeah.
Very quickly, Amber diagnosed my biggest problem: fear. I was scared to death of my condition. And I write about it in my book. I had a family history. My mom's aunt had something that was diagnosed as Parkinson's, but in fact, it was not Parkinson's. It was, as I understand now, CRPS. She had a full-blown dystonia, the claw hand, and she had severe pain, and it was progressing, and eventually she was her whole body was paralyzed. And she spent, to her complete misfortune, she had a very well functioning heart. So she was paralyzed for 10 years, um, begging for death to come every day, because she had to rely on people. She wanted to die so bad, and she couldn't. And so all that horror, and I watched her in her last years of her life. She died when she was in her 90s. And so watching all that was absolute horror that stayed in my subconscious, and her image came to surface of my mind as soon as I developed that claw hand. So I knew that
Wow.
what I was getting was what she had, and I was so terrified. So Amber worked on my fear. That was really the only thing that we were talking about, and how to get through the fear. Don't be afraid. She kept saying, I recovered, you will recover too. And basically that was it.
So
I
you
wrote,
had a cheerleader. You had somebody. Look, I want to say to the listeners, because people, well, I want to find somebody who has exactly what I have, so they recovered. I can. But, I always, we're taught this when we learn, and symptoms are the secondary thing. It's about your relationship with your nervous system. But the fact that you had a coach and someone that did recover from it does help. And I think I wish everybody could have a coach that would cheerlead and stay with them and support them and not give up, because that sounds like what Amber did. So you're working on your fear. You're understanding the memories, the trauma of your aunt. Wow, so relevant. And did she recommend you do certain methods? Were you doing journaling? Were you meditating? Were you getting back to moving your hand? What was some of the
So
strategies that she had you
she
do?
was she was recommending journaling, but this is a very important point that I have to make to everybody who is watching this. I quote two people in the book. One is Marie Curie, a physicist. Um, Nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. And the second one, equally important, from Albert Schweitzer, who was a doctor, an amazing physician, and a musician. Um, each patient carries his own doctor inside him. We are at our best when we give that doctor who resides in us a chance to work. And so these two people really were sort of my guardian angels, because they showed me the path. Number one, I had to fight my fear. And number two, I had to become my own doctor. And this is something that I need to tell everybody who is facing a neuroplastic condition. Um, you can, there are a lot of people that you can engage with on your way. You literally have to build your support team. You have to find coaches like Dr. Tovah, like all kinds of people now in the TMS world that are available, who will work remotely with you, who will help you out, but they are your educators. They are your teachers. The doctor is inside you. Until you really internalize all the teaching that you get from outside, until you start convincing yourself that you can do it, until you start convincing yourself that it is the right path you're on, without going to your coach every time. Because I have people who contact me. I had several people who would send out email to me every few weeks, and they would ask the same question: is it possible that what I have is CRPS? No, no, pal. Until you start answering that question yourself, maybe using my words, maybe you come up with your own words, you will never get out of that hole you're in. You have to learn how to become your own doctor. And so what Amber did for me, she set the path. She identified the path. But then I learned that I had to do it myself. And that was the biggest discovery. So she recommended journaling, and I started journaling. And I know I'm a stubborn weirdo, but the standard journaling that works for so many people didn't work for me, because I'm obsessive writer. And so the fact that at the end of the day, at the end of every day, I had to write something, I would get writer's block each time. And it would get
So
me
true.
into a tailspin, would make it even worse.
Were you doodling? Were you doodling on the paper? Just
No,
kind of.
no. I couldn't write. I had to type it. And that made it also harder because my hands weren't working. And so I basically, uh, I, uh, I kind of came up with my own method. I cheated. I used the TMS forum as my writing audience. Instead of journaling for myself every day, every now and then I would go onto the forum and I would post a question or I would write something. I know a lot of people do that. They would just um, dump their stream of consciousness on everybody else.
You know,
And
yes, yeah, I didn't realize that's the page. When the Facebook page, people are expressing long, and I'm thinking that's their journaling. Very good point. I didn't think about
yes,
that.
and then
Beautiful.
after I recovered, I actually found out that there is one of the TMS doctors, Dr. Newscomb, who actually recommends, he calls it creative writing. Um, my book, my book is actually a collection of notes, came out of the collection of notes that I took along the way. And so that was my way of journaling. And I highly recommend everybody. Yes, in the beginning, you start following a specific path that other people traveled before you. But unless you internalize it and you come up with your own routine, like with every other skill, when people ride the bike, learn to ride the bike, at first they learn it in a way that somebody else taught them, but then eventually they develop their own. So eventually you develop your own muscle memory, and that guides you in your way. So that was with journaling. Um, Standard journaling didn't work. Something that absolutely did not work for me was what was the cornerstone of Dr. Sarno's method initially. Because what people might not realize, Dr. Sarno's method is based on Freudian approach. And how did it happen? He had a friend who was a psychologist and who was a follower of Freud and was practicing psychoanalytical method. And so Sarno one day, so they would get together and have all kinds of conversations. So one day, Sarno himself had a migraine, and he decided to think about why he would get a migraine, and migraine went away. And so basically the foundation, the cornerstone of Sarno's method initially was to go back to a childhood trauma and find all that smoking gun, that one event that triggered all the pain and suffering in your future. I spent days and hours trying to think about who was that single offender in my childhood who got me to CRPS. I could not find it. That path, no matter how hard I worked on it, didn't work for me. And then eventually, on one of the CRPS forums, somebody mentioned that meditation was helping her to reduce symptoms. And I grabbed onto it because by then I was a long-time yoga practitioner. So I did yoga, and I did yoga in more of a athletic way. Yoga was exercise. And I knew that people came to yoga through spiritual routes, through some kind of a mind body, whatever route, and people practiced meditation. I actually went to meditation sessions before, and being, having the type A personality and being, on the go all the time and energetic go-getter. After 5 minutes, I found meditation so unbearable. I got up and left. But you know what? Hitting the bottom is a very good teacher. I hit my bottom and I was ready to try just about anything. So I said, okay, if meditation helps somebody, I'll try meditation. So I started trying meditation. And initially, I tried guided meditation. I tried all kinds of meditation music. I tried a very popular kind of meditation called body scan, where you just lie on your back, you relax your left toe, you relax your right toe, you keep moving up your body. Didn't work for me at all. I would start working my left foot, and by the time I get to the right foot, I forget. Did I work on my left foot before? And I would get stuck in between somewhere below the knees, and I could never get up to the face. And so body scan didn't work. Um, all kinds of guided meditations. I discovered I bought like 4 or 5 different tapes from different people. And I guarantee that works for others because they have high reviews. People swear by them. It didn't work for me. And so one thing, I took a class on meditation at the Buddhist center, and they do it right. They all sit on the floor, cross-legged. They put their hands on their knees and on their laps, and they do the right thing and they sit upright. I tried that. It didn't work for me because I was in such pain. I couldn't sit cross-legged. I couldn't even get into that cross-legged position because all of my joints were really tense and stiff.
Mhm.
And so what I did eventually, I sat down on the couch. I closed my eyes. I was so tired. And I sat on the couch doing nothing. There was one thing that was in some meditation guided meditation tapes, that you have to count your breaths. You have to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That didn't work for me either, because once my mind starts drifting away, I forget, did I count 1, 2, 3, or was it 1, 2, 3, 4? Did I get to 4, or should I start over? That completely kicked me out of my routine. So I stopped counting anything. I was just sitting there doing nothing, followed my breath.
That's mindfulness.
And eventually, and mindfulness is another one, very important. And eventually, to my absolute, complete, total surprise, I was able to meditate for an hour and a half at a time.
Wow.
And very, very slowly, I started seeing results. I would never see any improvement the same day after meditation, but the following day, all of a sudden, the pain would lift for a few minutes, and then it comes back. And so that made me meditate even more. So I started meditating every day. And so I developed kind of my own routine. There are a couple things about meditation that people need to know. And I noticed that um, eventually I understood that what I had was general anxiety syndrome. What I had was anxiety. And it was my anxiety that eventually got me into CRPS. I didn't understand, I didn't recognize it. I just was constantly in that stressed out, jittery state of mind. So what I realized was that once I start meditating, about 10, 20 minutes into it, my anxiety level would start rising. And at some point, it makes meditation unbearable. I have to get up. Oh my God, I may have left, uh, a teapot on the stove. I probably have a phone call that I need to answer. Oh, I have an email that I need to answer. I need to check my emails. Something. Oh, I need to find a jacket because I'm getting cold. So once I learned that I have to just push through it, I compare it to a surfer who gets through the surf break because he gets through the waves. The waves are killing you, but you keep at it,
Yeah.
you keep going, and then you find yourself in the open sea and it gets quiet over there. And you find yourself in the calm of the actual meditation. This is when you get into the healing part of meditation. Um, and so I learned several things. Number one has to be a routine. I have a blanket that I just put on myself, whether I'm cold or not. I put a blanket onto me. It's like, you know, toddlers, they walk around with a little blanket all the time
To create safety.
to create safety. Exactly. So I put the blanket on. I put my hands exactly in the same position. I no longer need it for the comfort of my painful hands, but I always put two pillows on my sides and I put my hands on those pillows. And that immediately triggers the process. So after you've done it many times, you develop it. I know I have to get through that 15, 20-minute surf break. And now it actually takes me less time to get through it. I know that I have to make sure that I don't have anything planned for at least an hour after the meditation. I never
Good
put a
plan.
timeline. I never tell myself, oh, I will meditate for an hour, or I will meditate for 30 minutes. I know that my next 2 hours have to be clean and clear from schedules. Um, and then whatever comes, there is never a good meditation session. There is never a bad meditation session. You
What
accept
it
it for
is.
what it is.
Yeah, very
And then you
important.
start seeing results.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's really my method. Sometimes I feel that I need some music. Sometimes I don't. Most times I don't even need any music. So it took me a while to find the music that would help me through meditation. Has to be very quiet, has to be very rhythmic. Um, when you have a baby and you need to calm down the baby, you rock the baby. And it's a monotonous, um, routine, repetitive movement that calms down the baby. That's how you calm down your
Yeah,
own self.
yeah, and that's a vagus nerve, stimulator. It helps to activate the vagus nerve, whether it's humming or singing or, deep belly breathing. Again, there are a lot of people who do what you're doing and they've done everything and they're still stuck. And I kind of want to address the people that are really stuck who are just, because I like to say that, we don't have to be Dalai Lamas on the mountain to heal ourselves. And I want people to believe because it's about faith, it's about belief, it's about facing fear, it's about understanding this innate intelligence inside of you that's constantly striving to heal you. And there's also a brain that's constantly striving to protect you. And there has to be a relationship between you and your brain, you and your nervous system. And, so there's a lot to unpack here. But what I want to just ask you to do is, first of all, could you mention about the book? And for 5 days, the Kindle is free for anybody that goes to Amazon. Share with that, please, about that, please.
Yeah, so the
Yes.
link should be in the description of that stream. So the book, I self-published it on Amazon, and Amazon does not allow me to give away any editions other than Kindle. So for 5 days, I make this book free, Kindle edition. So you can go follow the link on the description, and you can get the Kindle edition of this book for free. Also, I set up a website, and I post I blog on this website along with my partner in CRPS recovery and crime, Rita La Barbera. So I post on the blog every other month, and so she does post there. And so you can reach out to me through the website, and I respond within 72 hours for if people have any questions, and they want
Amazing.
encouragement and all that.
Amazing. This is amazing.
Yeah. And so honestly, everything that I know about CRPS and about mind body recovery is either in this book or in my blog. Whatever didn't make it into the book is in the blog. And so you may want to look at the website, because I keep adding different resources. And a very important part of the website, I collect CRPS success stories. So if anybody here is listening and watching who successfully recovered from CRPS, I would love to put your success story on the website, because it is reading other people's success stories what drives us to eventually victory. If there were not people who put those little pointers for me of their successes, I would have never come to my mountain top.
Okay. Can you see the question? Can you see the question, Tamara?
Yeah, the cortisol levels. So, there is something that I would like people to start doing is to pay less attention to their blood test results, to their physical tests. Uh, my EMG test, I would love to go and repeat it to prove my doctors wrong. I might still have my EMG test showing that I have some electrical problems in my hands, but my hands work. So I would not focus on blood test results. By the way, each time I was getting obsessed with blood test results, I was wrong.
Good, very
So,
good point.
yes. So again, I'm not a doctor. I cannot speak to any medical, specific medical details. But I know that each time I stopped thinking psychologically about my condition, each time I stopped focusing on my behavior, my responses, my emotional responses to everything that happens to me in life, um, to my physical symptoms. I was I was
Good point.
reversing. I was reverting. I was getting
Regressing.
yeah. I was definitely getting worse. So keep focusing on psychological side of things.
Amazing answer, Lee. I hope that you hear us.
What is one small thing that you do to get you through the moment? So you can do several things. Thing number one, read success stories. If you go on the TMS wiki and on my website, you will find links to TMS forum, and probably Dr. Tovah has links on your Facebook page. There is a whole subforum called Success Stories. It doesn't matter what your condition is. Read success stories because those are amazing stories of different ways how people were able to overcome their conditions. And something to understand is that whatever your symptoms are, the actual disease is in the brain. So manifestations of it can be different, but the problem is how your mind works. So even if the symptoms were different, your success stories would help you to get through. That's number one. Number two, no matter how bad your day is today, go back to yesterday or to a week ago when your symptom lifted for 25 minutes, even for 1 minute. Keep counting those days. Create a log of your achievements and remind yourself, you know what? Yesterday I was pain free for 2 minutes. That's what got me through. Eventually, I'm generally kind of a pessimistic person. I always think of the worst case scenario of what catastrophizing is really my forte. And so I literally taught myself out of that. I started thinking positively about all the good things that happened to me because I was making my way through the Dr. Sarno's path.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay.
Um, I would say yes, you can rely on those stimulators to reduce anxiety. The best way to reduce anxiety, it works maybe slower. It doesn't give you immediate result, but you use meditation as the way to bring down the level of anxiety in your system. And the second one is um, somatic meditation when basically whenever anxiety rises in your body, walk it, feel it through physically. Like, for example, for me, when I feel anxiety, I literally feel how it rises in my head and it walks down my body through my neck, through my upper back, and somehow it dissipates down in my lower back. And once you start following, just remember that every emotion you feel is actually a rush of hormones through your system. So once you start feeling your emotions, I write about it in my book. You just have to feel the emotions through physically, and then it goes through much faster.
Very good point. I want to piggyback on that. And I want to say that remember, anxiety is not a bad thing. And I learned this from Doc Hanscom. Anxiety is a protective mechanism. Anxiety is your sensitivity. Anxiety is your trying too hard. Anxiety is many things, but it's not a bad thing. Thank God I have anxiety when I cross the street and I wait for the red light or I drive on the highway. I'm anxious and my body's saying, wait, stop, do a couple things, say your blessing, drive in the right lane, be careful, drink a good strong cup of coffee, whatever it takes. My anxiety is helping me stop, pay attention. Anxiety is not a bad thing. So I like to turn anxiety around. So if we're using something to, what was it, to stimulate? What was the stimulator? Okay. So to lower our anxiety, what I like to say is use anything. Like I always say, smoke a joint. I don't care what you do to to bring your tension down, to relax, to bring safety and calm. But at some point, I want you to be the stimulator. I want you to be the Prozac. I'd like you to be, because you are the placebo, that you can do what that machine does. Like I'll have somebody, work on their posture and, doc, should I wear a brace or a support? I'm like, go ahead, see what it feels like, experience the support, experience the stimulator, and then you go ahead and practice because you ultimately need to do what that's doing. You're ultimately the captain, the pilot. And so it's good to have an experience of calming down. And then you go ahead and be the antidepressant because that's the goal. Since you have everything inside of you to do that. So for now, you need the support. Go ahead, please. Whether it's a coach or a stimulator or, Prozac or a joint or a steroid shot. We're not saying don't do that. But at some point, we'll keep wanting to get to the cause, to the root.
As long as you take it as a temporary measure, that's okay. Your ultimate solution is to engage your internal body and mind resources to
Beautiful.
overcome all the negative implications that you're feeling.
Beautiful.
But yet,
Beautiful.
anxiety is our evolutionary mechanism that saves us from dangerous situations. And it's unpleasant feeling, so we try to shove it under the rug of subconsciousness.
Very,
Get
very
it
well said.
from under the rug, feel it through your body, get it out of your system.
Very well said. The next question. Okay. Wow.
You know, that is a really good question. You know, and I'm trying to go back and think about what did I need when I was in a desperate situation like that. I would say things that probably infuriated me the most would be, oh, it's okay. It's not a problem. Um, oh, you will get through it. Not a problem. You will get through it. It is maybe pointing out specific things that she can do to help herself out. Because eventually your wife will have to build her own internal strength, her own internal resources to start the process out of CRPS. And I'm just thinking that maybe just pointing out small things, not that conceptual grand thing, oh, you will be okay. And if you send me an email through the website, I will be more than happy to think more about it, and maybe I will post a blog post on what the thoughts I would get, because it's not a simple question and not a straightforward answer.
And a lot of times it's so much worse for the person who doesn't have the symptoms.
And
In a way.
my heart goes out to both of you, because I think watching someone who is suffering is almost as bad as suffering yourself.
Yeah. And there you just gave another response, was maybe, the validation, we're going through this together. We're, I'm with you. That's the support. That's the safety. That's the sense of like, we're not alone. We're in this together. And so it's wonderful that she has you to support her. And this is a wonderful thing. And not everybody has someone in their
Exactly.
family.
That's a very good point. Knowing that there is somebody there for her quietly, without lecturing her, is already a huge help.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good question.
Get early morning anxiety. Well,
Anticipation of the day.
you wake up, try to do a 3-minute meditation. Feel the anxiety rushing through your body. Figure out how physically, be mindful about it, how physically it manifests itself in your body, and try to kind of walk it out of your body. Like I do, just follow it down my spine, and then it dissolves in my lower back. Sometimes it takes 10, 20, 50 walks down the spine with that sensation, but eventually it goes away. And I won't lie, sometimes it's very hard. Sometimes it takes me a long time to calm down.
I would like us to, look, we were not taught this in school, but we all have to learn to be in the moment. Because in that moment, there's no anxiety, there's no pain, there's no struggle. We are just in that moment. It is so powerful. And the breath helps you. And, we forget how much we have in that moment, and whether it's the power of now or the presence process. It is so powerful to pull us back. I mean, there you are living in later on, and what happened to the moment? You just missed it because you're worrying about later on, and that's a trigger for the brain. So you have that power to pull yourself back in the moment with the breath, with the meditation. And again, we're all with you. We're all learning this over and over again. At some point, going to the moment will become a habit, because the minute you're out of the moment, you're like, oh, let me pull myself back in the moment because I'm feeling uncomfortable. So the anxiety is a message. Let's use our sensations and our anxiety to help us. Let's be aware. And that's Doc Hanscom again. The big thing is awareness. He doesn't even go to the acceptance. It's like, Tovah, get rid of the acceptance. Just be aware. And he couldn't cross a bridge without a panic attack. Doc Hanscom. So let's just use our sensations, our conditions, our anxiety to serve us. What do we need? We need to be in the moment. We need to be present. And again, we're all learning this day by day, breath by breath. Fiona, I'm really happy that you asked that question. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's a very good question. So at some point, my last about maybe 6 months of my journey through recovery was probably the happiest time in my life. I discovered, as Dr. Sarno says, that I'm much stronger than I thought I am. That I learned something about myself. I learned that I can do more than I expected of myself to be able to do. I learned the power of my will, the power of my perseverance. So it was just an amazing personal experience of personal triumph. And looking back, it was one of the mountain peaks that I ever stood on. And I like hiking in the mountains, and I climbed some peaks, and that was one of the peaks that I climbed. It was an amazing time. And Dr. Sarno, actually, I have to disagree. He said, you don't really need to change anything in your life in order to pursue my message. No, you actually, you go through the journey that gives you new understanding of who you are, amazing sense of self-respect after you get through it. But I want people to remember that doubts is a normal part of the process. You doubt every minute, you doubt every hour, you doubt constantly until you learn how to be confident in yourself. The worry is normal, the doubt is normal, the setbacks are normal, your recovery is non-linear, but you just have to continue trying little baby steps, a little bit by little bit. And after setback, you take a break, and then you come back at it.
Good, very good response. Any other questions for us from the feed? So I want to say one quick thing. We're going a little over our time, but it's such an important topic, Tamara, and I'm so appreciating you, and I appreciate all of you in the feed staying with us. And we're going to mention about the book again, the free book, the free Kindle that you can get on Amazon. In the next 5 days, please get a book. Please take it home and read it again and again and again. And you can send questions to Tamara and myself. You know, we have this questionnaire about, you know, what's neuroplastic and what's mind body. And, you know, some of the questions say, well, if it's changing sides and if it's off and on, then it's TMS. Now, a lot of CRPS and many other conditions are 24/7. And so I don't want you to think you're not fitting into that equation. Oh, then it might not be TMS. A lot of neuroplastic pain is 24/7 because of your nervous system, because of your nervous system being hijacked, because of you living in threat physiology. And so a lot of CRPS and other conditions will be a 24/7 kind of sensation. It does not mean you cannot. That's a double negative. You still can heal. You still can recover from these methods. We've seen it. I've seen numerous conditions recover. And I don't want you to feel like you have to fit into the mold in order to heal. You are a unique thumbprint. There is no two snowflakes that fall alike. I mean, every symptom, every condition is different. So please, when you put yourself in that box or answer the questions or, you know, hear it from somebody, just remember all chronic pain and autoimmune disease are not normal. And all chronic pain and autoimmune disease can recover from using neuroplastic methods. We're seeing it over and over again. I will show you every week various stories that blow my mind and various people that we're meeting on the Facebook page everywhere. You are that person. You are not special in that way. You can recover and you can heal. So the question is, there's a gentleman, I'm not going to mention his name, who we both have treated. I'm not sure you know. He's living in another continent. He suffers a lot. He's a brilliant, successful, wonderful family man who suffers enormously with CRPS. And he's not getting, he's tripping up on himself. He's not improving in the way that he wants. And I think what I want to just say about a case that people are doing everything and following the rules and hiring the coaches and doing the work and not improving. What I want to hear from you, what you think it means. And I just want to say, we do trip up on ourselves. We have an ego. We're proud. We're perfectionists. We're overconscientious people. We're people pleasers. We're trying so hard. It does not mean you cannot recover. It just means that you are the problem and you are also the solution. And stay with it. Repetition, repetition, repetition. And as Dr. Clark says, there's still something in your brain that's perceiving a threat. And so just go to the brain. Your brain's just holding on, having some kind of communication with your unconscious mind that there needs to be protection, and your body is not punishing you. CRPS is not a punishment. Your body is in complete protective mode, hot wired. The car alarm is not going off. It's just on, but you can recover. And that's kind of my cheerleading and sermon of today is like, don't give up.
I
How would
I
you
have
respond to that?
I have a little anecdote to add to your story, and I think I know of a gentleman that you're talking about. Um, because he's been on this circuit, and I actually have a blog post inspired by him, doing too much or doing too little. But my story is about another person who had not like 100% CRPS, but a very debilitating neuropathic conditions all over his body. And he was doing the same thing. He was doing all the right stuff and it wasn't happening. It was not helping. He was desperate. And then he was working really hard on it and it was not improving. So he would chase it from one place in the body and it will appear in the other place in the body. And he was so frustrated. He finally went ahead and decided, okay, I don't care. He bought a very expensive sports car that was dream of his life. His symptoms disappeared.
No, we can't unpack that tonight.
I
But we
wouldn't
will
recommend
next time.
everybody buy a very
Okay, so
expensive
that's
sports car.
so talk
If
about
you have extra $100,000 in your pocket sitting around and burning it.
unbelievable.
But the point is that sometimes we're so obsessed with our recovery that our system goes on autopilot. And that obsession by itself is what triggers your symptoms.
Well, exactly. So that is a beautiful, analogy, and the story is amazing. And like I said, we can talk about that because it's what I just said. Like the brain is still protecting, and his brain obviously said, "This is safety. Whatever it takes." The brain said, "You got this." And something shifted in his neurology, and sometimes it just takes that much. So a wonderful way to end our amazing session. Wow, wow. I'm so blessed. Did I say that I was blessed to be in this position and be rubbing shoulders with you, Tamara, across
You
the
know,
world? Did I say that?
I feel blessed that I have the opportunity to talk to your community, and I'm grateful that there are people like you, Dr. Tovah, who build a community, because without community, which is a support group that everybody needs when they're recovering, it's impossible to recover. So by doing what you're doing, you're doing God's work. You're really helping people out. So
Thank you. Thank you. And that was really words of wisdom. So thank you so much. I'm happy that we're a team and you've joined me tonight. We will meet again and unpack a few more stories. Again, the book is free. Hold it up. The book is free for 5 days. Can you hold up the book, honey? Yeah, the book is
yes,
free for 5 days. Go to Amazon.com and get your Kindle copy. 2, you want
yes,
to ask questions. This will be uploaded tomorrow on TMS Roundtable Recovery. There'll be information about me there if you want to speak with me, have a discovery call with me. You want to talk with Tamara. If you want to talk with Tamara and I, we can get together on a Zoom and speak with you. We've done that before. Anyway, good morning, good afternoon, good night to anyone who's watching. I am really, really happy. And I just send blessings to everyone, blessings to you, and congratulations with your new granddaughter. Thank you for taking an
thank
hour
you.
and 11 minutes to be with us and to be away from
Yeah,
her.
thank you, and I wish everybody speedy recovery and the sense of personal triumph that you will experience when you get to your mountain.
Tamara Gurin. I love you. Thank you so much.
Thank
All
you.
the best.
Bye, everybody.
Okay.